stuff. Test recording and transcription. It'll be interesting to see what the transcription looks like. It's trying to follow me because I'm like a hypersonic chipmunk. So anyway, I'll share the screen, and that's great. And then I'll actually start up my induction slides. So great. As you can see, I've infringed on copyright many, many times. So that's fine. I'll start from the beginning. Security alert, I'm cool. Right, okay, so welcome to BSc Computer Games Development Honours Level. I don't really know what's happened to my Mario there. Where is Mario? Oh, there we go, he's back. I don't really know why I've started with an Irish accent because I'm actually Scottish myself. What is he doing? Stay there. Okay, so it's a Bachelor of Science. Can you see that sort of moving away and fading out and coming back? I'll just make sure that it doesn't do that by moving my mouse. So it's a Bachelor of Science in Computer Games Development. So essentially at the end of this, at the end of year 3, you get your Bachelor of Science, which is great. And then if you go on to year 4, you get an honours degree at some form of distinction. Generally, most of our graduates get firsts or 2 1s, at the very least sort of 2 2s. We've had very, very few thirds. And if you get to sort of year 3, then you will get your degree anyway. So that's great. So this is Induction. My name's Thomas Haney, and basically, yes, this is the content of the presentation. I'm just going to move away from that slide because it's driving me nuts. So what modules you'll be doing, I'll give you a sort of account of who's who and how things are going to sort of work this year with a bit of where is everything as well. So you can see from that that I'm quite happy about this. We're actually a TIGA accredited course now, which I worked very, very hard to manage to secure over the summer. And that's excellent because it sort of gives us, you know, better sort of roots into the games industry and things like that. So TIGA, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they represent the games industry in this country. And essentially it allows us to bring in sort of industry speakers and get the course up to a particular sort of standard. So if you're interested in it, you can read the sort of press release for the TIGA accreditation. So we just sort of got that. And it basically just sort of opens doors for us and allows us to give some work-related learning on the course and get it up to the sort of standards that the industry would expect. Now, when you're doing a course like this, I would expect that you're probably wanting to be a games programmer, games designer, or something. So it's a sort of general course, and my idea for it has always sort of been that if you don't necessarily sort of fulfill your dreams and get into the AAA gaming industry, then you will be a relatively good programmer, regardless of what you do. Most of our graduates always manage to find some form of employment that they go for or they love. So I'm quite happy that that's the case. So good news. So that's me there. I'm Thomas Haney. I think I sort of appear there. That's me in my office, which I actually went into the other day and cleaned. And that IT poster keeps on falling off the bloody wall. So that's what I look like. It's true, although that was a couple of years ago, I suppose, but I haven't altered a bit, as you can probably attest from my incredibly high-powered webcam. So I'm year leader for year 1 and year 4 of computer games development. I'm also the program leader I'm basically the boss of the entire thing. So I'm the program leader for computer games development as well. And I also sort of lecture in all the modules. So I basically sort of oversee your entire degree. So you may call me Tommy, Thomas, or Tom. I think Tam is probably a bit too plebeian for me. It doesn't quite suit me. But anyway, you can, as long as you get that noise and like a little meerkat. So that's me there. These are all my sort of contact details. So I will oversee your entire degree at the university. So for this here, you should sort of see me, and you'll see me a lot. Unfortunately, if you've decided that you don't like me in these first few 5 minutes, then it's a bad thing because you'll see me a lot during the first year. I'm your lecturer for Introduction to Games Development. I'm also your lecturer for Programming with Objects, and I'm your year leader. and I sort of appear in many different sort of modules, either in a sort of helping capacity or actually running the module itself during the course of your 4 years. So assuming I live, I'll probably be there with you until the end. So I oversee the entire degree at the university. And the degree sort of changes, but we won't sort of go into that. So my contact details are as follows. You've got my email address there. All email addresses at the university follow a basic sort of format. So it's thomas.haney@uws.ac.uk. Other lecturers like Gavin Baxter will be gavin.baxter@uws.ac.uk. So that's the sort of the format of it. That's my mobile number there. I don't mind you phoning my mobile at all. Generally, if I don't sort of answer it, normally answer it being a bit with a bit of trepidation, I suppose. Hello, who is this? So that's my mobile. Feel free to give me a ring if you get any sort of problems. And if I don't answer at that particular point, I gave out my mobile number last year because it was COVID. And normally students would be able to get in touch with us at the university, so that was my sort of philosophy. And after 17 months, we went back into the office and we had 16 missed calls in that office phone, which was remarkable, to be fair. I never expected that level of frequency. But anyway, that's my mobile number. Feel free to give me a phone if you get any sort of difficulties or whatever. If I don't answer, then just leave me a message. And I don't know why I'm popping up again there, but there I am. Go back. Feel free to phone me at any point, Monday to Friday, 9 AM, 5 PM. I don't really particularly care when people phone me, to be honest. Saturday, Sunday as well. We've had people sort of phone me on a Saturday. If it's an emergency, then feel free to do so. And by emergency, if you feel that you're teetering on the edge of sanity or things have gotten to you or whatever, then feel free to sort of come and speak to me, because I do generally sort of give reasonable advice. Okay, so anything, slightest issue, there's my LinkedIn profile there. So if you're wanting to have a look at that, you'll see that I'm involved in various things, various sort of projects and whatnot. So if you're wanting to have a look at that, just to more or less reaffirm to yourself that I'm partially qualified to teach this course in some way, even though I probably just prattle on about movies and Star Wars and things like that in video games, because that's what I sort of love. But have a look at my LinkedIn profile if you want. You can also have a look at my Google Scholar, because I've published quite extensively in the field of games. So, I'm slightly qualified. That's just to put your mind at ease. I've got a Discord contact as well. So there we go there. It's actually the Joker, Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, that seems to be my avatar for that. And the office number is there. So basically, I'm your mentor, friend, and supreme overlord. And that goes for the sort of entire course. But I'm a nice person, I like to think. So I'll be sort of overseeing absolutely everything. Good stuff. So there's the link to the program specification there, and the assessment regulations as well. I hate to go sort of all bureaucratic on this, but it's quite important that you sort of have a look at these and are familiar with them. Now, in order to get a degree, you need 120 credits at each level of the Scottish Credit and Qualifications Framework. So that's level 7. You're currently at level 7 or about to start it, and you need 120 credits at each level, and then of course 120 credits at honours level in order to get that honours distinction. So you've got to look at the program specification. Now, your enrolment should be relatively sort of simple, and it has been, I would expect, but you've got to look at the program spec, and you've got to make sure that you fulfill all of those course core requirements in order to get a degree in computer games development. And there's the assessment regulations as well. Now, you do have the ability to reset and re-attend courses as well if things sort of go wrong. But the only reason I'm sort of showing you this now is I don't want to give you too much of a warning in your first day, but don't mess about with the system too much. We've had quite a few students that have been trying to get into things like year 3
and finding that they're missing credits at level 7 because of a sort of new way forward that the university sort of instigated. So just be careful that you're fully familiar with the program spec and the assessment regulations. So generally your enrollment and everything else, if you pass everything, should be relatively fluid, but just make sure that everything's sort of there and familiarize yourself with these because they are like a contract. Legally binding contract is like my contract for UWS that extends well beyond death. And even if I die, they'll be saying, Thomas, can you still run the program? Yes, of course I can, from hell. So make sure that you're familiarized with these things in order to, you know, not come a cropper, I suppose. If you pass everything and you just sort of progress up the scales, everything will be absolutely fine. But my warning to you is don't mess around with the system too much with resets and reattendance and all that sort of thing, because it does have a way of biting people like that. And then all of a sudden it's a case of, you know, well, I thought I had infinite reattends. Well, you didn't. I'm afraid it's goodbye now, and see you, that sort of way. So just have a look at these and make sure that you're sort of fully familiar with them. Email, oh yes, the university will send important communications to you via email, and some less important stuff too. Basically, it will bombard you with a whole load of stuff like surveys and things like that. So it does say that you must check your email regularly. Essentially, what sort of happens is you probably start to look at the emails that come from your lecturers and the people that are of importance, but everything else will probably get filtered out, and you will probably start to miss things. But you are supposed to check these things regularly, and there's more sort of details there as well. So you can actually set up the email to forward onto your personal account if you wish. If you're anything like me, you're just connected to absolutely everything. So, I mean, I sort of sit here, as you can see, an email comes in from the university system, it goes directly to my phone, which then goes directly to my watch, and I sort of read these things as they come in. So, a bit like Agent Smith in The Matrix, I'm always sort of connected to these things. But it will send you important communications to you via email, and that's where you should get all the sort of, not the COVID restrictions, but all the sort of COVID procedures and everything like that that have come in, and how we're sort of going to be moving to this hybrid model, which basically sort of means that, you know, some of it will be on the campus, some of it will be on the, you know, online, synchronous online delivery is what we're going to go for. Okay. Timetables. There are 3 modules per term. Sometimes there are sort of variations of this. It depends when they sort of run. And each module is usually in a sort of single block, okay, or in a single day. So if we're doing introduction to games development, for example, which you'll be doing with me this year, and you'll also be doing programming with objects, then typically I think the way I've got it organised in the timetable is that we're doing introduction to games development on a Monday, we'll do programming with objects on a Thursday, I believe, okay? So it's normally a sort of single day for each module in order to make sure that that sort of runs swimmingly. So it's flexible online and hybrid delivery per week, per module, but more sort of working hours than expected in your own time for each class. So essentially you're supposed to really treat this like a bit of a job, and some people sort of get into it where I say that to students. I certainly didn't treat being a student like a job at all. I just sort of did my work and had a bit of fun. Went to karaoke a lot for some bizarre reason. But anyway, the entire idea is you're supposed to spend approximately 8 hours per week on independent study for a module. So you get your lecture, you get your lab, and then you're supposed to go away and sort of expand your own interest. And you will sort of do that, you know, because you can only show people so much, I suppose, for example, sort of programming, and some people sort of take to it like a duck to water and go away and sort of learn their own thing or do their own thing. Okay, so it says you should get a term 1 timetable today, and you will. All the timetables should be online by now, so you should be able to access it through that link there, the student timetable UWS. And I believe for students, it's you type in your banner ID and you see all the classes that you're sort of timetabled for. and that's the way it goes. So teaching and learning this year, hybrid educational delivery model, and we're going to be using Aula, which is a new sort of system that the university has invested in. I actually quite like it. There has been some kickback about it, but I actually quite like it. It's very sort of direct in the sense that you can just sort of easily manipulate the canvas. And we're going to be using Microsoft Teams as well. And that's going to be the sort of basically I can do lectures from my home and obviously on the campus as well. The idea sort of being that the lectures are going to be synchronous online delivery from my living room with the piano in the background, and the labs, if there are going to be any labs, are going to be on the campus for sort of additional sort of support. Okay, so so we're doing synchronous or asynchronous online delivery combined with on-campus experience. Forget that asynchronous nonsense. It's actually just synchronous. We tried asynchronous online delivery last year and it didn't work. So essentially, people prefer having the structure, so we'll keep that structure. Last year, I sort of listened to what the honours students were sort of saying to me and saying that they wanted an asynchronous experience. Because they had work and all that sort of thing, and I believed them, and I forgot what it was like to be a first year or a second year, so I just did everything asynchronously until in week 8 people approached me and said, "We want synchronous." I said, "All right, okay, well, why didn't you say so?" So we moved back to synchronous. So it's going to be synchronous online delivery, so anything in your timetable is going to be materializing in real life, if that makes sense. So modules appearing on the timetable, just basically what I said, are being delivered synchronously online, so in real time, and modules not appearing on the timetable, if there are any, which I seriously doubt are asynchronous. But we'll tell you what modules you're doing in a moment. So you've got to check with module coordinators. The module coordinator is basically the lecturer that sort of runs the module. Luckily for yourselves, I think I'm the module coordinator of the sort of 2 main modules that you do, or 2 of the core modules that you do, and one of them is across the entire year. So I'll be able to sort of check up on you or keep you sort of advised. I'm also sort of your personal tutor as well. So if you get any question whatsoever, then let me know either in the lecture or on campus if we meet, if you wish to meet on campus. I'm not really sure how that's going to go. And yeah, so that's the way we'll sort of work it. So just see me as a sort of approachable person that you can okay these things with. So you've got to check with the module coordinators how these things are going to be run through the academic year, and I'll probably basically tell you in a moment. You can work remotely on coursework as well. I think you'll also be able to sort of go into the labs at some point, although I expect that because you're all sort of computer, and forgive me if I'm wrong here, you're all sort of computer games development or got an interest in computer games, you probably have machines that will be far better than what will be in the university labs, I would imagine. So each lecturer will explain how contact is to be maintained, and stay in contact with the lecturer during the module only makes sort of sense. If you find yourself sort of avoiding lecturers or things like that, then it's generally a bit of a bad thing. So don't try to sort of run away and hide. Always try to keep in contact, because we're generally quite understanding people. All right. Respect towards academic staff. Oh God. Yes, I'm not going to lie. One of the staff members on my course basically forwarded me the year 2 induction slides, and I sort of altered them all into year 1. And he's put this in here because he was sort of sworn at last year. And he's sort of saying, that there should be respect towards academic staff. And it was a shame, because I did feel a bit sorry for him, because it was his birthday and actually he wasn't being sworn at. It was just a bit of a mistake. And I said, I'm sure they didn't mean it, that sort of thing. Anyway, so please be patient and tolerant if staff are experiencing sort of technical difficulties. I don't think I will, because I've bought the Death Star this year. I've spent $2.5 grand in this fabulous machine. So if anything goes, badly, I'm going to go back to where the hell did I buy this thing? Yes, I'm going to go back and get them. So just try and be a bit sort of patient. It's still a sort of a challenging time. You will get people that are trying to work with calculators, perhaps from home, and maybe it wouldn't be going too well for them. But yeah, also try not to swear at particular members of staff. They take it really badly. No one's in the guts to swear at me or be cheeky to me at all. I just don't seem to understand why people are victimised. I've never been one to be victimised, to be honest. But anyway, it was a shame, so he sort of put that in there, and I stole it, and I forgot it was in there. So yeah, try to be respectful, okay? Contacting academic staff, the best way to raise queries, if you get anything with me, just either phone me or send me an email. I'm sort of swamped in emails, and I've got this terrible habit of reading an email and responding mentally. So yeah, if I haven't got back to you, don't be upset about that. Either just phone me or keep pestering me until I sort of get back to you, okay? Try and sort of remember that, we're trying to work in a 9 to 5 weekday. People are trying to get lives as well and have a sort of work-life balance. So obviously, if you're going to, and quite a few people have done this to me this weekend, people have sent me an email at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. You're going, well, I'm sorry, but you're not getting an answer until Monday because I'm slightly busy. So just be sort of aware of the fact that they've got a 48-hour sort of window to get back to you and things like that. So email, give me a phone, whatever, and try to do it within a sort of acceptable time frame, if that makes sense. So I know that students and computer games development people have a sort of weird sleeping pattern where they think that sending an email at 3 o'clock in the morning is a good idea, but do remember that these things can be sort of missed. So try 9 to 5 in the week, and don't necessarily expect an answer immediately if you send one on a Friday night, but you will get some sad people like myself that will probably respond, okay? So try to be patient and courteous. Oh, God, I'm glad I got that over with. Boring! Anyway, so these are your modules for this year, and these are the core modules, okay? Now, if I remember correctly, Introduction to Games Development, can you all see that? Yeah, that's run on a Monday, I believe, and that's myself that does that, so you're in safe hands there. Programming with Objects, this is a long, thin delivery, and despite the fact that in some documentation it says it's term 2, it's actually term 1 and term 2. So that's going to be a very exciting module for you. I've got lots planned because I do a combination of C# and C++ in that module. So it's a brilliant module. I'm really quite happy with it. So you've got me for those as well. The Creative Computing Professional, I believe is that Peter Cetera, I think. So that's a 10 credit module. You notice these all have little credits, yes? Ooh, I wonder if I can actually sort of... Ooh, I've got a pen. Oh, fantastic. You notice that these are, yes, that's a 20 credit module. This is a 30 credit module because it runs both term 1 and term 2. Yep, this is a 10 credit module, which means it runs for 6 weeks, I believe. So be careful of that one. Just be sure that when it's on your timetable, this is what I sort of mean about the modules being a little bit out of sync. So your assessments will sort of hopefully sort of balance up. This is a term 1 module. This is a 2-term module. I think this is a term 1, but I'm not sure. And I believe that these two are term 2 modules, I think. But just sort of check your timetable and make sure that you're sort of attending that. I think this actually runs in term 1 and term 2, or it can, depending on what sort of options that you're doing. Oh, love this little thing. Okay, so then you've got the option modules. So you've got design for interaction or 2D computer animation, whichever ones you've sort of selected there. But just go onto the self-service banner system, which I'll sort of show you in a moment, and make absolutely certain that you have 120 credits worth of modules. Because if you don't, something's gone a little awry. I seriously doubt that it has, though. Okay, so just make sure that you're okay with that. Another thing is when we sort of meet for Introduction to Games Development in the flesh, his eye pierces flesh. So when we meet in the flesh and things like that, perhaps, or even when we're sort of doing online sessions, we'll go through everyone's sort of banner to make sure that everyone's on the correct modules, everyone's sort of doing okay. So we'll have a sort of 3-4 weekly sort of thing where we catch up with these things, okay, and make sure that everyone's on the correct path, okay. So these are your optional modules. You've got to pass all the core modules, and you've got to basically pass everything that you're on. But it is year one, as I say, you've got to get 120 credits at each level. So just be sort of wary of that. If you start to find yourself that your academic transcript is like Swiss cheese and there's holes and stuff in it, then you know we'll have to sort of try and address these things. But never mind that. It's your first day. Have fun! Yay! Okay, so. Is everyone okay with that sort of description? Is everyone happy with what they're doing at this stage? Yeah, ridiculous silence as a confirmation. Oh yeah, I should be watching the. Oh damn! I should be watching the what do you call it? I should be watching the chat. I haven't been watching the chat. Sorry, I'll just. Okay then. I'll just sort of stop that for the moment, and yeah, I'll stop sharing for the moment, and I'll just make sure that everyone is sort of okay. Is everyone okay there? Yeah, it was there tons of geez. Oh, is that it transcribing what I'm saying? Oh no. My goodness, I talk a lot, don't I? So does anyone have any questions at the moment about the modules? You all okay with what you're doing? Good stuff. So just make sure you've got 120 credits worth and everything should be fine. Okay, so we'll begin from, we'll start sharing again. And we'll continue. Okay, so there we go. Right, all UWS degrees are modular. There's 3 modules per term generally, so that should necessarily generally sort of be the case, but there are a few modules like that 10 credit module. Watch out for that one where it sort of appears. It's only 10 credits. It shouldn't be too sort of academically challenging. So there's 2 main terms, and then there's 1 term for reset. So we're starting from September to January. And that's great. And then we've got 12 weeks of classes, 1 consolidation week and 2 weeks for scheduled exams, but we won't have scheduled exams on this course. It's generally sort of practical courseworks. And then January to May is basically the same again. Then if there's any sort of catch-up required in the form of resets, then June to August is when that sort of occurs. So modules contribute to your degree. Generally, there's 20 credits per full module, but if you look at the program specification, you'll sort of notice that some of these are 30 credits, some of them are 10, and there you go. So generally about 60 credits per trimester, 120 per year, okay? So you can't miss them. Online access, I'm not really entirely certain if they do the sort of My Day thing anymore, or the My UWS. It shouldn't really be My UWS for you guys, it should be Aula. So forget that, but I mean, if you sort of look at the digital skills and support, I think you have a sort of, the problem with this is I can't actually sort of see it. So they have a sort of portal for students, which, you know, sort of organizes your classes, organizes your day, that sort of thing. So you can sort of click on that and see where it sort of takes you from the main sort of site. So you've got your My Journey as well. That's a sort of student-centered, personalized learning platform, I believe, if it's still sort of there. And then you've got the self-service banner system. Now that one is a very important one because this is where all your enrollment happens, online enrollment, and obviously your grades appear there as well. Now generally, and sort of request for council tax exemption. Now generally, I mean, when grades are sort of processed, I sort of have a feedback meeting and I sort of, you know, say what I'm proposing the grade to sort of be. They generally don't become sort of written in stone until they're externally examined and moderated, but then they will appear in the self-service banner system. So you've got to be slightly sort of familiar with that, and we'll make sure that you are, okay? So you've got a student email, obviously, that should be self-explanatory to all of you technologically literate people. And then we've got the sort of new university Aula platform. So if you're wanting to sort of select on that link at some stage, you should be able to enroll in these things. Teaching doesn't start until next week. You'll find that some lecturers have entirely populated all of their modules. I sort of teach on a week-by-week basis because firstly, I'm disorganized, and secondly, everything changes, and I don't like sort of doing the same thing twice. So I'll probably sort of update these things before I put them on, if that makes sense. Okay. So your banner ID is the sort of user identifier across all of the computers at the university. Okay, and then you've got all these sort of links here. So you've got an ITGS campus induction video as well. And speaking of videos, why didn't that video play earlier on? There was a video there. Oh no, there's supposed to be a video. That was going to come up. Oh, drag. Oh well. We'll watch the video in its raw form in a moment. It wasn't really particularly informative, if I remember. So forget the My UWS stuff, but you've got Aula this year. This is for sort of later years as well, and you've got the self-service banner system, which is accessible through there. So make sure you can access that, and make sure that you can access all of your information and look at the modules that you're currently on. So there's the terms and the trimesters. That's sort of broken down for you a wee bit. Why is this sort of duplicating? Okay, sorry, I might have duplicated some information there. So 3 modules per term, maximum 5 hours class time really is what sort of happens in the day, and you will get your timetable from there again. And here are the core modules sort of outlined. Now be careful of this one, it's very important because it is a 1 and 2 trimester. Good, so here's the trimesters here. So Introduction to Games Development is trimester 1, trimester 1 and 2 for Programming with Objects. Creative Computing Professional, that 10 credit one, is trimester 1 as well. And Introduction to Computer Animation seems to be trimester 1, and Computer Systems is trimester 2. Okay, I think that's the way it's sort of going to be working. And it should sort of even out. You'll find that some trimesters, particularly year 1, you might find that you'll be sort of slightly overburdened, but then have a lot of time off in another trimester, if that makes sense. And these are your 2 options. Okay. I don't really know what's happened. Oh yes, how to be certain of your modules, right? So if you go to the self-service banner system, that's where you'll find it there, and then you sort of select the student section, of course, and then that's how you actually manage to look at your own records. That's the view I get, unfortunately. You'll be able to sort of do your online enrollment here. You'll be able to look at your own personal information, and then you'll be able to view your own sort of modules. But not to worry, once we're actually sort of on the campus and everything like that, if we're on the campus, or anyone's got any sort of questions about that after this, then give me a bell and we'll sort of go into the system. We can share screens and whatnot, and you can show me if you wish. So these are the people who's who. So that's me. Yes, I've said all this. I'm the program leader, year 1 leader. I lecture you for programming with objects, which I don't like the name of. I think it's probably best to have object-oriented programming classes. I don't know. An introduction to games development as well. So there we go. Dr. Gavin Baxter is the year 2 leader. He'll be taking you next year for computer games design, level design, and retro games archaeology as a sort of optional module, if you like. Dr. Marco Geladi, I swear these people are nowhere near as stern as they look. They're actually lovely. He's a sort of year 3 leader, and he'll be taking you for sort of more advanced modules like game user experience and testing, although I think it's possibly sort of changed names. And then if you survive, but I'll be in there as well, and particularly in year 3. I sometimes help with that module, and basically as I don't necessarily sort of have a formal role in that capacity, but it's just basically because I'm the program lead, and I like to sort of keep an eye on what everyone's sort of doing as well, because I'm a control freak. They all sort of know that about me anyway. Good. So if you survive to year 4, you get me again for serious games. So that's a core module in year 4. And there I am again, as if we needed more sort of verification of that. So that's what the campus sort of looks like. It's into blocks, and it is very, very odd in a sense. Because E block is one of the most confusing blocks in the entire campus, because it's the only one with an annex called E Block South. Yeah, and that's where we actually are, in E Block South. So you get a sort of map like that. Hopefully you get a campus tour. As I say, I know every nook and cranny of that campus because I've been there for 20 years. And as sad as this sounds, if I die and there is in fact, the existence of the afterlife or whatever, or ghosts, I'm going to be in that lab. I'm going, ooh, your code is wrong. Ooh. Anyway, so that's what the campus sort of looks like. So hopefully you get a map and you sort of, but don't worry, I mean, people are quite friendly, and there'll be student guides. I think they were wearing pink t-shirts last year. Goodness knows what colour they are this year. I think they're red. There'll be student guides sort of stoating about all over the place. So just ask someone. People are relatively sort of friendly, and people get horribly lost. I mean, I remember I was sitting in E Block South one day, and people passed and said, oh, we're trying to find the library. And you're going, oh, right, the library over here. You're so disgustingly lost. So that's what it looks like from a drone's view. There's the staff offices there. That's where we're going to be. That's fine. Labs as well. So E219 and E113B is generally the sort of games labs that we sort of use. Eat here, do not eat there. It's horrible. You could possibly eat at the Students' Union as well. I was sort of reading earlier today that there was this, how students are incredibly sort of good at saving money. A guy became a sort of member of a casino so he could go and gorge himself in the all-you-can-eat buffet in order to save money, and ate about 4 platefuls of food before per day. And then there's a library, and there's a coffee shop and everything in there. So that's generally where we sort of have, or we would have lectures. We'll have lectures online now, but the labs in the E block will be sort of running. Okay. So modules will be lectures, labs, perhaps tutorials. I sometimes add tutorials in for programming with objects, and it depends what sort of lecture you've actually got. They can be delivered in a variety of ways. Generally, that's the way I sort of do them, lectures and labs. Sometimes they're lectures only, and whatever. So you get some sort of, what do you call it? Some sort of idea from the timetable. So you get a sort of lab outline or a lecture outline, okay? So generally week 1, there is no labs or tutorials in week 1, except this year they've changed it, haven't they? But we have a lecture in week 1, and we've got a sort of on-campus experience that goes alternate weeks 1, 3, 5, 7 for all the modules that you've got, me anyway. So just be a wee bit sort of careful about that, okay? You generally get the slides and everything provided to you. You get all the lab sheets provided to you and everything like that. So everything should be relatively self-explanatory. Aula, it will be the normal source for all the sort of module materials. And that can include different sort of things as well. So you get notes, handouts, and lecture slides. So there'll be plenty of it to be getting on with. Okay, right. So personal development planning. I don't really understand what's happening with my slides. Personal development planning. It's important to keep your online portfolios current throughout your sort of time at university. So start showcasing your work on LinkedIn. Gavin's quite obsessive about that, and quite rightly so. The games industry does expect you to have a sort of online portfolio of work, and you can do that in any way that you see fit. It can be a blog, YouTube channel, LinkedIn as well. So we'll get quite a few of our students posting up that they've got the degrees through, and they're happy as Larry. And I'm quite happy to say that quite a lot of them are saying, oh, and I'm about to go and work for, I think it was Ayrshire Interactive or something. So that was one of our students today. So that's great news. So these are sort of societies and things like that you should possibly be looking into. Into games, that's about sort of careers in the games industry as well, and Scottish Games, Insomnia Resonate, that sort of thing, LinkedIn, logo, and grads in games. So you can keep your ear to the ground with these sort of various things, okay? Yes, we have a Game Dev Fusion annual event now, which is run by Gavin. So it's a sort of annual showcasing event, which we thoroughly encourage you to take part in. In fact, everyone's sort of invited to it. And it's really for people to show off their games, their work, or you can just simply be a sort of passive recipient and sort of show up and get feedback if you wish. But you know, see what other people are sort of up to. So it's a very, very good opportunity. We had a lot of employers and things come to the last one. So it's all run by, where is he? I don't see him. It's all run by Gavin Baxter. There he is. There, he's tiny. I thought that was him, and I thought he's looking rather sexy nowadays, but it's not. It's because it's the wrong person. So yes. So it's for good sort of constructive feedback. It was very, very good last time. We got to see a lot of games, and it was supposed to only last for 2 hours, and it ended up lasting 5. Oh my God, you wouldn't believe the amount of coffee I needed to get through that. But it was a brilliant opportunity. So we sort of run these things all the way through in order to, we have sort of things at Christmas as well, and we have these annual events for you to be part of, because, you know, the idea of a student community, a learning community at UWS is very important, and that's what we want to sort of, for you to adopt, and that's what we want to advocate. We want a nice sort of learning community where you can feel really part of a family more than anything else, and that sort of intrinsically helps with your learning, and you're always getting sort of peer support, peer comments, and that sort of thing. Me being the all-loving patriarch, and the rest of them as well, the lecturers, they can be mummies, whatever. So yes, that's what it sort of looks like, okay? Here's a creation of a portfolio website. This is one of our 4th year students from last year who sort of created a portfolio website. And you know, you can do the same. I'm not saying that you have to go away and do this immediately, but over the next 4 years, you know, sort of think about, you know, what you're wanting to do. Are you wanting to work in a particular area in the games industry? What are you up to? I say that now, but obviously, I mean, when I went to university, I didn't have a bloody clue what I was doing. I just decided I'll do a degree and see how it goes. 5 degrees later, I'm here, and I still don't know what I'm doing, and I'm 40. Yeah, so a lot of people will probably give you conflicting, go your own way in life. Now they've sort of adopted this advertisement that sort of happens in Facebook, Instagram. There is no wrong path. And really, there isn't any wrong path. Just go your own way. Don't necessarily listen to people when they say that you've got to be, you know, a go-getter and you've got to choose. You must choose. You've got to choose something. You can quite easily sort of just try everything and see where you sort of end up. That's what I've sort of done in life, if I'm being entirely honest about it. Although for the games industry, it would be quite nice if you had a sort of goal, perhaps, if you wanted to be a level designer, where you wanted to work some kind of idea. All I ever wanted to do was be a teacher. And I'm not really entirely certain if I've fulfilled that, because even though, you know, I'm a university lecturer, it's not really what I had planned. I just flicked through a college prospectus and I committed, you know. So yeah, it's okay to be focused and have a goal and everything, but it's also okay to think to yourself, well, I'll try a few things and see how it sort of works out. So this is Leon Irving. He's a games developer that's just recently got a job with the Learning Loop as well, and he sort of created an ArtStation account. Use of Twitter, we sort of promote things on Twitter as well. We've got a Twitter account. Follow us on Twitter. And we're generally doing quite well on Twitter, actually. And we promote students' work and we promote staff accomplishments as well, although I don't really particularly like that. But we're all quite supportive, and if you get anything that you're wanting to appear, or anything that you're wanting to put up and for us to sort of support, then fair enough. This is Gavin Baxter. He's a lecturer and my friend and compatriot, etc. And we go running together. I'm going to get him up to a half marathon if it kills him. So yes, he's very, very into LinkedIn. And he's very good at getting in industry speakers and things like that. So do connect with Gavin on LinkedIn and start your own sort of LinkedIn profile as well. But his is a very, very good example. I just have, he's an uber organized, brilliant person. And I just have a LinkedIn profile by virtue of the fact that it's a bio product of my job, if that makes sense. Although I do try to sort of slightly keep it up to date, but he's better at it. Okay, so there's a Games Development Society as well. You can join the Games Development Society, and our president, the president of the Games Development Society is Edward Osei Amoa, and you can get you can send him an email, or you can look him up on LinkedIn, and he's also a grads in games ambassador as well, so that's great. And it's useful to sort of build contacts, and they do game jams and all that sort of thing. They did ask me to supervise a game jam once, but I'm an exercise person, you see. And I said, no, I don't think I can. I'll come in and see the end result, but you've got to understand I'm, running over the hills and things the weekend and stuff like that. And sitting in a room with people and having tons of pizza doesn't exactly appeal to me. But anyway, for game jams, game nights, and it's for socializing and things like that, because university should be a little bit fun. Should be more fun than last year, put it that way. So do sort of do that. So there's the Computer Games Development Twitter page. There's a sort of, Tribulation. That was a game that they'd entered for Transfuser, a group of the students last year, which was a great accomplishment. And because we're TIGA accredited now, we can now sort of enter into the TIGA Educational Awards competitions as well. So if you think you get anything that's sort of really quite spectacular, then you can enter into things like that. Okay. Engagement. Attendance at classes online is required. You may be withdrawn from university if you fail to attend class even online. I don't know why that's there, to be perfectly honest, because I mean they wouldn't withdraw. I shouldn't be saying this. They probably wouldn't withdraw anyone even if they didn't. So the way I look at engagement, if you're actually submitting coursework, and you're submitting assessments, and you're passing everything, then that's absolutely brilliant. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to come to every class, just as long as you're sort of okay. I was trained by a highly powerful, evil professor, and he went to Glasgow University to study pure maths. And he basically said, I don't really need to attend the lectures. I just bought the book and went away and read the book and passed everything. So I'm kind of that mind as well. I mean, you are young adults. If you don't want to sort of necessarily attend lectures and things like that all the time, I will respect that. I mean, you're not going to be withdrawn from that. That's them just sort of, saying that there is a very, very strong link between non-engagement and failure, if that makes sense. So, I mean, if you're not sort of showing up to the online lectures and things like that, if you're not keeping up with the flow of work, then you probably will find that you have difficulty and you start to, have scrape passes and things for everything, and things might not be going so well. So the point is, just sort of turn up, okay, and keep up with it. Okay. Submit coursework sometime. Don't leave it to the last 2 weeks. And of course, lab work. I mean, it is programming and computer games development, so lab work is more or less sort of essential. And these things are an incremental, iterative, transformational process in terms of learning. So you've got to practice them and be comfortable with them. And do it in your own sort of time. I've never really, if I'm being honest with you, and I always am, it's one of my failings, when I went to university, and I was sort of learning to program, and there was always someone sort of standing over my shoulder. I didn't like that. I preferred to sort of learn on my own, but I did sort of go away and try to get, it was the embarrassment factor. You know, when you're trying to get a bit of code to compile, and someone that just knows everything is hovering over you going, that's wrong. It's quite not intimidating, irritating, I would say. So, I mean, I prefer to sort of go and work at home and make sure that I sort of knew everything there. But the point is sort of do everything. So make sure that you do all the sort of lab work. And if you do have problems, then do feel free to ask questions or whatever. I mean, that's what we're sort of there for, to give you as easy a time as possible. Aim for an A grade in everything. Try to do the best you can in absolutely everything. And the more sort of successful students from this course, a degree is basically what you make it. And the more successful students, you know, put in more effort, they sort of engage in extracurricular activities, you know, go in game jams, you know, sort of meet people, get out into industry, you know, form connections, that sort of thing. And, you know, the more you do, it's the age-old axiom, you get out of something what you put in, and that's really the crux of the matter. So do aim for a sort of grade A and everything, and you know, do your absolute best. That's what I would sort of say. That being said, I mean, have I ever failed an exam? I did get a C once. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry, it was a B. I did get a B once because I wasn't really particularly great at something. It was called component software, and that was back in 2003. So, I mean, just because you don't get an A in something doesn't necessarily mean that you're bad at it. It might just not be your jam, if that makes sense. So always try to do your best in things, and you know, the world's basically your oyster after that. What you're not wanting to be doing is just sort of scraping everything. So put more into it, okay? If you can. So other years are a mix of coursework, class tests, and end of term exams. I think there's only one exam in the entire course now. Late coursework up to 1 week late is penalised at 10%, and any later than that, you get 0 marks now. I think that I'm quite right in saying that some lecturers will enforce that. Really, it's up to the individual member of staff whether they sort of enforce that. Personally, I'm not much of a carer of that sort of method. If you've had something go wrong or you require an extension or whatever, then I'm quite happy to grant it. So it really depends on the member of staff there, but some people are sticklers for the rules, and you will identify these people fairly quickly. Not necessarily in year one, but as you sort of advance through the years, you'll be able to say, he's a stickler for the rules, that one. And I could do that accent for you right now, but I won't. So yeah, and some people are a little bit more sort of relaxed with these scenarios. Basically, you know, we're wanting as many people to pass as possible, and get through the course. That's really the sorts of perhaps managerial pressures that we're under, but I mean, I don't really see that there's any point in, you know, not giving people a benefit of a doubt, okay? But you will get people that will say, oh, right, you were a nanosecond late, you're penalised 10%, and that's just because they're probably flexing their sort of little muscles in a, you know, small pond sort of way. I tend to not care about those things. I'll get far bigger fish to fry, to be perfectly honest. And later on, you can get 0. So that's later than 1 week. They can say, oh, I'm giving you a 0. So it's all sort of time critical. So the main thing is to make sure that you don't give these people any sort of ammunition. Okay. Plagiarism, don't do it. I'm just doing it now. Unacknowledged use of others' work includes copying material from the internet. Obviously, I've just copied all of Nintendo's sort of characters right there into my slides. Plagiarism, once again, it's really up to the academic whether they... now, when we're talking about this, we're really talking about sort of dissertation plagiarism, maybe in year 4 or stuff like that, where you've nicked a whole load of material and you haven't acknowledged where it's come from. As long as you acknowledge where something comes from, then generally it's sort of okay. Now, in coding, Be a bit careful where you get your code from as well. There will be examples of things, but if you're actually submitting a coursework, we have a very famous example where a student decided to try and submit something for, I believe it was one of Dr. Kier's third year modules, and this boy submitted a coursework which had French comments in it, and he was a wee Scottish boy, and he didn't speak a word of French. So quite frankly, you can understand that was plagiarized. You used some French guy's code. So just be a wee bit careful of that. So if you're nicking code from the internet, make sure that you eliminate all the German comments or the French comments, okay? And put in wee Scottish comments. I'm kidding. Just don't plagiarize. It's better that way. It does you no good educationally either. And it's up to the academic whether they want to take you to a plagiarism panel, which can be sort of slightly traumatic for the student. It's like it's unbelievable. It's like a court case. I've never been to a plagiarism panel. I've only heard of them secondhand, but I probably wouldn't bother with such a thing. They would probably give people a sort of slight slap on the wrist and say, don't do it again. So just try to avoid that sort of thing, okay? Right, the following grading system is used across the university. So we get an A1, it's 90% or more, which is exceptional. A2, 80% or more, which is outstanding. A3, 70% or more, which is excellent. Anything above an A, and you continue to excel and get a first class at the end of it, I would say. B1 is very good, B2 is good, C is satisfactory, D is kind of unsatisfactory, and E, oh, yeah. N is when you actually have no work to assess, okay? So in most modules, there are two requirements for a pass, at least a C grade overall, which at this university is 40%, my goodness. And at least a D grade in every category of assessment. So if your assessment has 3 components, you've got to get 30% in each category in order to sort of pass it, okay? Which it shouldn't be an issue in any way, shape or form. Generally, the grading, obviously this is progressively difficult, okay? So don't sort of expect, if I get grades, A grades, A1s, you know, in year 1, 2, then everything's going to be hunky-dory in year 3. They might start to drop a little bit. You might have to add a little bit of extra effort, you know. So these things are incrementally difficult in accordance to the Scottish Credit Qualification System. Feedback. Every mark given on your work is feedback. Oh, right, is it? I normally, well, I do tell you the marking scheme. I give you detailed feedback. All of the lecturers, all the games lecturers on the course are at least full fellows or associate fellows of the Advanced HE or the Higher Education Academy. So we have all these sort of qualifications about assessment and feedback. So you will get very good feedback in many ways. I generally sort of give pages and pages of it. And my feedback is as watertight as a mermaid's brassiere. And I'm not even joking about that. I can pinpoint exactly where I've docked every single mark or wherever, you know, given a mark. So we'll have a conversation with absolutely every assessment you submit to me, and we'll make sure that you're happy with it, okay? And do feel free, I mean, if an academic is giving you feedback, do feel free to question that feedback. That's your prerogative to do so, okay? And don't feel as if you're being recalcitrant. It means willfully disobedient by sort of questioning, because they should be able to pinpoint exactly where every mark comes from, okay? And also your feedback to us. You get to comment on our teaching. We always want to improve our courses, ensuring a good student experience. You know, that's the reason we're here. You know, we want you to have a good experience. You are in some respects our customers. We wouldn't be in this line of work without you. So we are very, very interested in every sort of thought, every gripe that you have. And we try to sort of give you you know, give you the say, and we try to instigate some of these changes as well, although that does take a little bit of time. We have module experience questionnaires, and we pay great attention to these. And of course, we have a sort of national student survey at the end of year 4, and that's this year, I'm happy to say, was 84.2%. which was remarkable considering it was the year of COVID, and it's an increase. And let's face it, it's down to my remarkable, brilliant leadership. But anyway, yeah, we're very, very happy to read all the module experience questionnaires and to take action on these. So remember that you're entitled to do that. Equality and diversity. The university has policies to promote equality and diversity. I think I've been promoting equality and diversity for quite some time. I'm just accepting of all humans. It's one of my ways, I suppose. So in brief, treat everyone with respect. So everyone who meets the academic requirements has a right to be here. And of course, I can't believe we're having to say this, but there is no room for religious, sectarian, gender, racial, or other form of the discrimination. Which I'm glad to say, never really seen happen, to be fair. Everyone in games courses tend to be pretty cool. And in the computer animation arts program as well, everyone's quite cool and accepting of how everyone is. And, However, we have equality and diversity policy. Okay, if things are going wrong, illness or domestic problems, the best thing that you can do if things are going wrong in any way, shape or form is just come and contact me, okay? Or let me know about it. Give me a phone, whatever, and we'll talk it out, or we'll have a Microsoft Teams call. We have things like extenuating circumstances. If you feel that you can't put in an assessment, that's got to be sort of done within 48 hours of the submission of assessment. You can go to part-time. You can take some time off your course as well, because life does sort of happen. Okay, if you're struggling despite your best efforts, make sure that you always sort of get answers, etc. So the best sort of thing to do is just keep me advised of the situation. Now, I do sort of give people the benefit of the doubt in terms of, you're young adults. And I recently sort of had an interesting phone call with one person who sort of disappeared, for the second. And a lot of people, it was difficult to keep track of people during COVID, and people sort of disappeared, the second trimester. And one guy sort of failed 2 things and then come back and said, what are my options? And you go, well, do you think failure gives you options, that sort of thing? So we had to sort of talk it through. So yes, it's better that you come to me sooner rather than later with these things. It's like another person who emailed me today saying, I submitted a coursework, why hasn't it been marked? Why don't I have the grade? And you go, well, I don't know. It's obviously lost now. It wasn't me that did it, but because of the sort of program lead, I had to sort of look into these things. And he says, I'm sorry I didn't contact you sooner. If you contacted me 3 months ago, I would have been able to deal with this a hell of a lot easier than I can now, because all the marks, all the degrees, everything has been processed by now. So it's possibly best that, earlier is sooner rather than later. That's all I'm saying. Okay? So just come to me with anything. Failing assessment's not the end of the world. It really isn't. You can sort of reset, you can reattend, and things like that. So it isn't the end of the world at all. Okay, and we can do some other sort of options as well. Okay, so you've got to remember that it's best to, if you complete year 1, you can leave with an award. So you can have a certificate of higher education in computer games development. Now, even if you do decide that the course isn't particularly your vocation or your jam or whatever, it's better to complete a year and show an employer, or another course that you can complete a year, rather than just sort of dropping out with a bad sort of transcript. So there are things that we can sort of do there if you keep me in the loop, if that makes sense. So I sort of know things about the program, and I know how to sort of possibly navigate things to get your credits up. So keep me in the loop. Yeah. Extenuating circumstances and appeals. You can appeal as well. I mean, I've said about extenuating circumstances. You can sort of look at the things there, and you can appeal against decisions as well within particular cut-off dates. Complaints, if you have a complaint, there is a sort of complaints procedure And it's usually, well, we can take an informal sort of approach. Normally what sort of happens is, you can go to the lecturer, the next one up is the module coordinator, the program leader, then there's the head of the division or the dean or the head of school, and the complaints procedure can actually sort of be found there. Do bear in mind that this is if you have a sort of valid complaint, and I don't want to say this without being condescending. If you make a complaint, be ready to, see it through, and you've got to come up with a sort of valid resolution as to what this may be. Do you want, a lecturer to apologise to you? It's not just a simple case of, we've had quite a few occasions. I've even had a complaint against myself. And basically it was someone that wrote a letter and just wanted me fired. And you're going, I'm sorry, but that doesn't happen. It's not grown up. And, he never sort of came and had any form of resolution to the complaint. And then, of course, we have other people that want to go straight to the top. I'm going straight to the principal. Well, we'll go right ahead. I'm afraid he's far, far, far too busy for your complaint. What he will do is say, you deal with this complaint, people, to the lecturers. So we have to sort of deal with it, and we have to come up with a sort of amicable solution. That being said, if you have a complaint against members of staff and whatever, we've had that sort of thing before. I will help you reach a resolution, because some people don't necessarily agree with things. Sometimes things are said that are not in the heat of the moment, but people have had hard days, etc. So do sort of keep that in mind. So if you want to make a complaint, you fully have the right to do so. Student support, we have student services, and they can offer you support with a whole range of different problems: welfare, financial advice, emergency loans, alternative funding, enabling support, counselling, and I've got all the things here. So there's a set student support Discord thing, so all the links are there. Some links on adjusting to working from home, student support and well-being, counselling services, digital skills and support. Now, I cannot stress how much your mental health is incredibly important. So do look after it. And if you find that your mental health is sort of deteriorating, your health comes first, is basically what I'm saying. So if you feel that, come and speak to myself. You get counselling services at the university. I've even on one occasion actually forwarded a student to my own personal therapist. That's right, I have a therapist. Everyone should have. We need to vent. So yeah, look after your mental health and make sure that everything's hunky-dory in that regard, because a degree is not worth sacrificing your mental health for. I will say that, okay? So look after that first, okay? Digital skills and support, so you've got a whole load of links there, good stuff. General information, you can go to the university website for our calendar of dates. Exam dates don't really apply to you, the regulations, mitigation, appeals, that sort of thing. Student services, so if you've got any sort of queries, then feel free to email the student hub, and you'll get a lovely woman called Mitzi, who likes me, I think. Yes, I like Mitzi. So international students, careers, service, welfare and counselling, student administration, you can go to these sort of things as well. Okay, so online enrolment is really, you've done it already, I would imagine. But enrolment is done in the self-service banner system, and I've mentioned it about 4 times in this presentation. And I apologise for the duplication in there. I thought I had that all sorted out. So funding, you've got a budgeting module. Wow, I didn't realise they actually offered a budgeting module to students. I should go in a budgeting module, spend money like a drunken sailor. Then there's a website about funding as well. So if you get any sort of difficulties with funding, then do sort of email, okay? And that's always their Twitter feed. Okay, student representatives. Oh yes, there should be a student rep at each level. So if anyone wants to volunteer to be a student rep, normally what sort of happens is you keep in contact with all the people in the year of your program. So all 19 of you that are here, or should be, and you get sort of training as well. It's something that's quite good to put in your CV, and it's someone to sort of attend student staff liaison group meetings. And what happens is, if there's any sort of problems, or whatever, then I'm sort of sitting there as well, and my boss is all sitting there. We're all there, and basically you get to sort of give over the views of your colleagues, okay? So to make sure that everything's sort of running smoothly, to make sure that the students have a voice, and of course you should have, okay? So if anyone wants to become a student representative, then let me know. Looks good in the CV, and sometimes you get free pizza. Woo! So let me know if anyone wants to do that. And there's a website there and emails. Yes, the library. Let's face it, will any of you be in the library? The library is actually quite fun. I have enjoyed the library on many of an occasion. But that's what it looks like from the outside, and that's what it looks like on the inside. Really rather boring. But you get sort of subject librarians and whatnot that can sort of help you. Generally, I would imagine that because we're computing people, we have other ways of getting information. But, you know, we can still go to the library as well. So that's an option G. Careers and skills. There's people waiting in the lobby. Admit. Yeah, good stuff. So, yeah.
They were here before, they might have just lagged out.
Sorry?
I said they were here before, so chances are they just lagged out.
Oh, lagged out. Oh, right, okay. Oh my goodness, there's lagging out now. Oh well, we're recording anyway. So, careers and skills, yep. There's a careers and skills video. You can go to the careers service, and you know, I don't know what these people actually do. To be perfectly honest, it's a bit beyond me. It's like that idiot's art sketch a little bit. You know, the career advisor would come to school and say, "I advise you to get a career." I don't know what to say. But these people can be quite helpful in advising you on how to sort of you know go forward. So what now? Is there any questions in what you've heard so far? Everyone all right? So next thing to do is make sure that you've enrolled on your modules, and I'm sure you all have. Ensure you have a point of contact for each module. So for Introduction to Games Development, that's myself, and for Programming with Objects, that's myself. So we should be having that on a Monday, Introduction to Games. And for Programming with Objects, I believe it's on a Thursday, but do check your timetable. You should have possibly another two on your timetable. The one will be a 10 credit, and one will be something else. But the way that sort of evens out is for Programming with Objects, you don't really submit anything until the second trimester for assessments, okay? So it's just lab work and lots of fabulous lectures about programming, which I deliver with my usual panache. Okay. So there's Sonic there, and we're done. We'll maybe discard those things. Okay. I just want to do this.
Sorry, Thomas, I have a quick question before you go on.
Yes, of course. Oh, no, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. It's just...
The timetable we have at the moment, the lectures are online and there's labs. I take it that's coming into the university?
Yes, it's because people are a bit cautious, you know, coming into the university just now, because you might have people that are high risk, people who are, you know, maybe not necessarily wanting to interact with society again. So the way that we're talking about that is that we're doing lectures online, synchronously, and the labs and are on the campus, but they're optional generally. They're certainly optional for my modules. So if you don't want to come in, then you don't have to. Julius, you're here for induction. You're fourth year, my man. Your induction's on Thursday. This is for first year. I don't know what's happened. Sorry, did I sort of answer that question there?
Yeah, that's all good. So the mornings looks as if it's online scheduled, and then afternoons are labs. So
Yeah,
we can come in. Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, and the labs are really, it's The instructions that we got a week ago, I hasten to add, was, lectures should be synchronous, online, and that way you can record them and make them available to people that don't necessarily want to come in. But if there's lab work or whatever, then obviously you can come into the campus and get support if you like. That's the way I'm playing it. It would seem to be optional.
No problem.
Okay. But for introduction to games development and for programming with objects, that's the way I'm going to play it. And for anything else that you've sort of got, then just make sure that you've emailed the module coordinator. Okay. I have a question above. Oh no. Sorry. I don't know. It's actually quite accurate with the transcript, isn't it? Oh, I've always been told that I was a clear speaker. Sorry, can you just sort of, all I'm seeing is transcripts upon transcripts of my twittering. Yes, the online lectures, I mean, normally what I would do, and I'm not entirely certain that the online lecture, we're allowed to embed links to Teams online lectures in Aula. But normally what I sort of do is I just sort of email the link and I make it available there anyway. So it could be a combination of both. That's why you've got to sort of keep track of all your emails and things like that. And I am particularly terrible at that sort of thing because it's, 2 minutes to go, here's the link. Any more questions? I'll start recording. Yes, wait, I'll cancel that. So essentially your first class or first lecture should be next week, and I believe that starts at 10 o'clock, maybe, for Introduction to Games Development. And the only reason that there seems to be a sort of practical lab at that point is because I could only get 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 odd numbers in the timetable. So that was just me sort of making sure that we have that lab in the upcoming weeks. So if you sort of join the synchronous online lecture next week, we might decide that, is there a requirement for a lab? Not entirely certain there is. It will depend what we sort of end up doing or what you're sort of wanting to do. Well, that sounds weird when I'm supposed to sort of, just come up with what we're going to do. But we can do sort of game maker stuff, which is relatively simplistic. We can also have a look at Unity. We can have a look at Unreal, or we can just sort of do games design documents or things like that. We shall see. I'm winging it. Any more questions? It seemed like a great idea to buy a Thanos mug. And it's awesome. But see, drinking out of it, I know, it's not working out. So you're all okay then? If you have any other sort of questions, then feel free to give me a bell. You've got my mobile number, you've got everything else. And, oh, loving the mug, good stuff. I love the mug too. It was a gift for finding someone employment. Isn't that nice? I think it was, when I looked it up online, and I really shouldn't have, I think it was £13. So yeah, that's yes. So I think that's really sort of everything. I'll make this recording available at some stage in case anyone sort of misses the induction process. Of anyone wanting to sit and listen to me Twitter for ages. What we did last year was I did all the lectures. I pre-recorded all the lectures, which was a nightmare, by the way. And then I had a stupid idea where I thought it'd be nice if I actually did it in front of my television. So I shared my screen with my television, and then I sort of, talked through them all. And it wasn't until about week 8 people said, "We can't see your slides." It's like so that was a bust.
Okay, what was the question above? Sorry, I don't. It's because it's decided to do this transcript thing. You can just type the question into the chat again. That's the transcript. The chat's different. Oh, for God's sake. Right. Ricardo. Right. That is utterly priceless. Poor Julius, he showed up and he's year 4.
It was just asking where the lectures are held, or where
Oh,
the lectures are held.
Well, the lectures are held here, right here. So they're online, and it'll be a link that will be sent to you, and the lectures will go through. I'll do them live, and I'll record them at the same time, and then any lab work will be done on the campus. Or for programming with objects, we don't necessarily have to do. I've just booked the room for the remote access. If you find that it's better to just do sort of coding or online coding from your home, then let me know and we can accommodate that as well. So we can do a bit of synchronous online and on the campus as well. So we can feel free to be a bit adaptive. I've just sort of done that to book the room because we were basically told to give students an on-campus experience. And you're going, I don't really know what that means. I know what my on-campus experience would be. Right, we're going to run 13 miles around the campus. But the on-campus experience had to be sort of accommodated for. So then they said, with practical labs, if students require support or want to come in, then great. Luckily, I'm like about, and it depends where you are geographically. I mean, that sort of works in theory, but I'm quite okay here in the sense that I can literally make the campus in 4 minutes. And I don't know what situation the rest of you are in, how far you are away, that sort of thing. So that's something we can sort of work out in the fullness of time when we sort of start. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure because I'm an Erasmus student and I'm only doing the programming with objects module. So
Right, okay.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure. Yeah.
Yes, okay, so it'll be synchronous online, and also I'll try to, we'll schedule, if people need coding support and whatever, we'll go through some of the labs online as well. I mean, I will have Visual Studio sort of put in here, so that's how I did it last year. I just sort of shared my screen with people and they shared it with me and we sort of worked away at it. So yes, as a result, you don't necessarily. Where are you exactly?
Where am I right now? Or
Yes.
where I'm from? Oh, I'm doing the Story Street residence. So yeah, I'm next to the campus. Yeah.
We'll do a competition.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said we could do a combination both. Go into the feel well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
What are you more?
That brings us nicely up to time.
My goodness, it's actually been quite nice to speak to people. You're very lonely as a lecturer,
People are typing.
Did you? What was the last thing you said? Sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
All right, sorry, I said it's nice to actually speak to people. I said you get very lonely as a lecturer,
Yeah, fair enough.
That was nonsense. Nothing of relevance. Okay, enjoy work, Martin. Someone else is typing. I'll stop the recording now. Ah.